Welcome to another edition of Iowa Magazine Extra, an interview program set to run as a companion for stories published in Iowa Magazine. Today, we're in conversation with Jack Rovner. Jack received his BA in Communication Studies from the UI in 1977, shortly after moved to New York and started a run that would eventually put him among the most accomplished professionals in the music business. His career achievements include roles in artist management and at the highest levels of the recording industry. Today, we'll talk about his time at Iowa, his career, and where the music industry has been, and maybe a little bit about where it's going. Good afternoon, Jack.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. It's great to see you, and thanks for joining us this afternoon.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We're excited to hear your story of things, and the story starts as a kid. How did music influence your life in the early days, and what kind of records did you buy? What types of things did you listen to?
It started very early, very early. I think my parents were part of the Columbia Record Club, and I could hear them playing their music, Johnny Mathis and Kingston Trio and artists like that. And I was in bed and listening to the music in the living room, and obviously, it piqued my interest, and then really solidified when I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. It all kind of really became very important for me. It was a marker for me in my life, and it changed my life.
So you have a long family legacy at the University of Iowa, and then you decide to come to school here. Walk through that process, and then tell us that story. There was sort of a transitional night, one night at a concert in the Fieldhouse.
When I was an official student was in the fall of 72. The Dead played, and I got a ticket, went to see them, and I just, not only, was I thrilled to see the band, but I wanted to know, how did they get here? Mm-hmm. Who was responsible? I knew I couldn't play a guitar, didn't have the patience, couldn't sing a note, but I was so intrigued by what goes on behind the scenes. How were they promoted? Who sold the tickets? Who built the stage? Who put the lights up? That was what really drove me. And my mission was to find out who that person was or group was, and it was at the time it was called Q, mm-hmm. The Commission for University Entertainment, and I, made the appropriate introductions and said I really want to be on the committee. And I started as a committee member and eventually ran the committee. Had a wonderful time doing it. And also it was probably the greatest class that I ever took.
And it was a great lineup of acts that were coming through Iowa City at that time. I mean,
it was
unparalleled.
It was great. I had a roommate, John Gallo, who we're still close to this day. He was booking Hampshire Auditorium, the old Hampshire Auditorium, but then it was the new Hampshire Auditorium. And I was booking the Fieldhouse, the old Fieldhouse, not Carver Arena. Mm-hmm. And, he was booking some incredible acts, and I was booking more of the arena acts, from the Outlaws to the Doobie Brothers to Zappa. And he was booking, and this was going on in the same dorm room. He was booking Springsteen and Linda Ronstadt and Little Feat. So it was a great time. And we both started on our journey together. We were the dynamic duo. We were good friends, and we were experiencing the business at the same time.
Going back to the Springsteen at Hampshire story, a mutual friend of ours, Dave Sitz, was telling me one time about the Springsteen appearing on the cover of Time and Newsweek in the same week and thinking, is that guy still going to come to Iowa City?
Yeah, same week. Absolutely, same week. Yeah, Gallo's timing on that was perfection for sure.
So you graduate from Iowa, 1977, and you decided that music's going to be your career. What's next? How did you get in the business? How'd you get started?
I sent out a bunch of resumes, and at that time you were sending out resumes. It wasn't LinkedIn or anything like that, and ended up at a company called CEA, College Entertainment Associates, and became a middle agent. It was an interesting time. I had used up all the money that I saved, and so I would sleep on the floor of my office and take showers at Grand Central Station until I saved enough money for an apartment. And I didn't obviously my employers didn't know about that, other than they wondered why a duffel bag full of clothes was in my office. But other than that, it was cool.
Well, you're gaining some traction there. What was the next move?
I became good friends with kind of the guys my age who were in the business, and they had gone through, rather than be a middle agent, they were assistants at the agencies. And one of those friends was Rob Light, who is now has been the head of music at CAA for the last 20 plus years. And Rob, he was interviewing with Columbia Records, and he told him, listen, he just made the decision that he did not want the job, but recommended me. Mm-hmm. And I went through, I think, probably 3 or 4 months, maybe even longer, of interviews. And I ended up at Columbia Records, and it was a dream. For sure. It was a dream, because the first book that I read out of college, when I was kind of figuring out what I was going to do and how I was going to approach it, was Clive Davis's autobiography. Mm-hmm. And it was, certainly all about Columbia Records and the artists and his perseverance and getting knocked down and getting back up. And it was inspiring to me. And I remember, even at when I was still working at College Entertainment Associates, CEA, having to drop something off at Columbia Records. I don't know what, but I had it, and I just was in awe. I thought I had gone to heaven. It was the Big Red. It was where all the artists that, the names, the big names were there, and it was very special. So to be able to have the opportunity to get the job offer to work for Columbia Records was an amazing, it was just an amazing thing for me. It was a dream, another dream that came true. And it was the job title was manager of artist development. Mm-hmm. And certainly at that time, I had no clue what artist development was. And I was going to find out for sure, but it didn't matter to me. It didn't. I just wanted to be there. I would have been in the mail room. If they offered me the mail room, cleaning toilets, whatever, I wanted to be there. That was it. That was the center of the musical universe for me.
Well, and who were some of the people on the roster at the time? I mean, you talk about a triple A list.
Oh my God. It was, as I rose through the ranks and became the head of marketing there, I was working with Bruce Springsteen and Pink Floyd and Barbra Streisand, to Julio Iglesias, to an 18-year-old kid that played the trumpet pretty well named Wynton Marsalis.
Not bad.
And on and on. It was incredible. It was an incredible time. Billy Joel, Paul McCartney. on and on. It was just the Rolling Stones. It was crazy time. And I felt, I was very fortunate to experience that. After 10 years and of a great experience at Columbia, we had some management changes, and I wasn't feeling as good about the place as I once did. And I had made a name for myself, and Clive had offered me a job 3 times, and the third time I took the job. And I went to work for him at Arista Records in 92. I was senior VP, so I was number 3. There was Clive, general manager Roy Lott, and then me. And I was, at the foot of the Jedi for 3 years, and they were tough years. Tough because I thought I knew about the music business and marketing and all of that from Columbia Records, and I did not. I had gone to graduate school, the Clive Davis Graduate School, and he taught me a tremendous amount. And his understanding of the business and what was going on and how to create a household name, how to, position it as a household name. It was an incredible experience for me. And I learned a lot about what you should do and a lot of things that, no, that's not right for me, but that's part of the experience. And we had a great run in that 3 years. We had Whitney Houston's Bodyguard, we had Kenny G, we had Annie Lennox, and then, Clive brought in LaFace and working with LA and Babyface, and then Puffy, what he brought in with Bad Boy. And so it was, it was a glorious time at Arista. So I was lucky. I was lucky that I chose the right paths. And I think that's important for anybody. When you're jumping and you decide to take another leap in your career, you still have to make this. It's not just about the money. It's got to be about, is this the right place? And can I do well? And can I thrive? That's part of the process.
And did you go from Arista to RCA then?
I did not. I took a year. I was getting itchy, and the head of BMG, who owned Arista, knew I was getting itchy, but wanted to keep me in the company and offered me a job as head of marketing for North America for BMG, which had RCA, Arista, and some smaller labels. And they offered me a job to oversee all of marketing, gave me a checkbook. So it wasn't just a title without portfolio. I certainly knew Arista, but I got a feel for RCA. And then after a year, they were looking to fill the top positions at RCA. My boss at the time, Strauss Zelnick, who became, very important in my career, a mentor, asked me if I wanted to team up with somebody that I've known, that I knew for many years growing up at Columbia Records, Bob Jameson. We just wanted to create some noise. And then we started with crazy records like La Bouche and Mambo Number 5. And that
was a monster record.
It was a monster record, but it gave us, that we had a heartbeat. And then from there, it just was a crazy run, with Christina Aguilera on her debut record selling 12 million records, and NSYNC selling 25 million records, and David Gray and Vertical Horizon, and then we signed the Foo Fighters, and then I signed the Strokes and the Kings of Leon, and it was a great run. It was a great run.
You're running RCA, you're doing different things, but now you move back into the management sector. Talk about that transition.
Hard, not easy, hard. I had spent 20 years in the corporate world, so I saw the power shift, and the shift was going clearly to managers, those who controlled the artists. As I was signing the Kings of Leon, in that process, I had met their manager, Ken Levitan, and we hit it off and realized that we had a ton of mutual friends, really close friends. And after I left RCA, and my head wasn't spinning any longer, we started our conversation about what we both, had envisioned for ourselves in our careers. Ken was already was an attorney by trade, but he was looking to build and expand. And we had, obviously some great conversations, and one thing led to another, and we shook hands. I left RCA in March of 2002, and we shook hands, I think, in September, and we were off to the races. We also, Ken and I, decided that because of both of our desires to have a multifaceted company, not just management, we started a little label, Vector Recordings. And I had heard fortuitously about an artist, an Irish artist, that was looking for a unique deal, looking for a unique situation. And I heard the record because it was already recorded, and his name was Damien Rice. And it blew my mind. I was just completely floored from the record. I went to London and saw him perform, and he was one of the greats. He was one of the greats. And I then, proposed our partnership deal, and it was a partnership. And I called Ken, and I called my wife, and I said, listen, I am not going to leave London until I get the deal signed.
When you're starting, and let's say let's just pick Damien Rice for the sake of consistency of the story. So you had so much experience in marketing and on the labels. Now you're going out and you want to help represent the artists. Did the artists see that your label experience was an advantage, or maybe were they a little skeptical that here's the marketing guy that's not going to try to control me?
A little bit of both, honestly, depending on who the act was. When I started managing Bon Jovi, John I had known John through my record company days, and he had offered me the management job right after I left RCA, and I was in no shape and mentally to make a commitment to anybody. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But 4 years later, however long it was, after we, Ken and I got together, I got a call, would you be interested in sitting down with him? And at that point, we had, in earnest, we were a management company. I said, absolutely. And not only did John, know of my past, but he had read an article about, I read something, an interview that he did And the interviewer asked him, well, what are you listening to? What's your favorite record right now? He said, I can't stop listening to Damien Rice. And just sometimes, it all comes together, and there you go. And, John and I had a great run for about 8 years, and a great time in his career and a great time in mine as well.
Is it hard not to live the rock and roll lifestyle when you're working around artists?
No, not for me. Not for me.
And I heard a saying once, house lights, tail lights. When the house lights go down, my tail lights come on and I'm on my way home.
Yeah, I mean, I wish that was always the case, but I just learned early on that I needed to balance. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have a relationship with my family, not just have a family.
Let's talk a little bit about the changes you've seen in the industry and your longevity in it. And earlier you referenced things like when MySpace was coming in, Napster, and in hip hop for a long time I was exchanging cassettes, or what Dead shows it was exchanging cassettes. But now with all this plethora of music out there, whether it's YouTube or satellite radio, streaming services, everything that exists, the pool is both miles wide and miles deep. How do artists get noticed today?
Well, I mean, it's the cream rises to the top, there are millions and millions of fans out there that are exploring and diving deep. And one thing leads to another. Social media breaks the artist, or at least exposes the artist. I won't say break, I'll take that back. Exposes the artist. So that is an enormous factor. And when I grew up in the business, you would see an artist and they would have no track record, zero, but you would recognize the talent, you would recognize the performance ability, the writing ability, the unique voice. Now it's, I would say, the vast percentage of artists are signed because of the activity. They put out their own record, and the activity is going on in Spotify or one of the music streamers. And that's how the major labels come in and they swoop in, and normally they swoop in together, and it becomes a bidding war. But it's no longer based upon, I just heard a voice and we're going to break that artist. We're going to go through, a period of time of developing the artist. It's no longer that. I think it's all about analyzing data and seeing what's working on Spotify or Amazon or one of the other music streamers, seeing the activity there. So it's almost like it's data analysis than anything else.
Well, just like the way the baseball's working that way, everybody's working that way. It's like, I'll look at the numbers before I watch you swing the bat.
Right.
And our final question today, Jack, you've been so great about keeping connected with the university and offering to help students. If the class of 2022 came to you today and said, how do I get started in the music business? What are some suggestions?
That's a good question. It can't just be, I want to be in the music business, because that doesn't mean anything to me. Nothing. It's, get in, start, going to concerts, buying records, go work intern at, for a promoter, for Live Nation or AEG, go work for the theater, go work in the mailroom, clean the toilets at CAA or William Morris. It's not just, I want to be in the music business. You got to feel it. It's got to be a burning desire. You're not signing on to a job that is a 9 to 5. You're signing on to a lifestyle. And the lifestyle has to fit you, and you're going to live it, every day, because it becomes part of your DNA. And if it's not, don't do it. It'll be a waste of your time, and you won't go anywhere.
I think that is fantastic and strong advice, and a great way to wrap up this conversation. Jack Rovner, thank you for being part of Iowa Magazine Extra today.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thanks, everybody. This has been the latest edition of Iowa Magazine Extra. We'll see you the next time.